research.
You haven't done that yet before bringing the lawsuit?
We haven't we have to determine our damages, but we have to send subpoenas in order to do that. That's not something we can do pre-action.
But the people who know him, who read it, you have access to them because Mr. Ortiz can just talk to his friends and family and find out who
So you're
read
telling
it.
me people who are a member of this, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm trying to understand this. People who are a member of this church are embarrassed to say they're a member of this church?
Some people might be, and I think early Christians were too. This you have to understand. This
An invitation is a cult, right?
Yes, Christianity is a cult.
No, not the Christianity. If people are embarrassed to admit their affiliation with it, that gives rise to an opinion that it's a cult that uses mind control.
We're in America. It's freedom of religion. I think the very same Constitution that allows your church to have, from what I'm gleaning, to be unorthodox. I think you used the word unorthodox Christian beliefs.
It's beliefs that mainstream Christians might consider strange.
Okay. So the very same Constitution that allows your client to have a congregation and be situated in Ridgewood and have this expression of religion as they choose is the same Constitution that allows freedom of speech with regard to that religion.
What did the World Mission Society Church of God sue Michele Colón for? We've been asked that question a lot. So today we have Michele here with us, and she is going to go over the lawsuit that they filed against her. So today we're going to go over the specific complaint that was filed against her. If you guys want to look it up, it's docket number BERL-5274-12. This was filed July 11th, 2012 in Bergen County, New Jersey. And through the Freedom of Information Act, we were able to obtain audio of the motion to dismiss this complaint. So throughout this whole entire episode, you're going to be hearing little clips. When me and Lindsay heard the audio of this motion, we were really surprised. We found a lot of interesting things in there, and we wanted to share it with the public. So when you hear this audio, that's what you're going to be hearing. You're going to be hearing from the presiding judge, Judge Rochelle Harse, and you're also going to be hearing Michele's lawyer, Paul Groswald. He no longer represents her, but he represented her during this motion. And then you're also going to hear Marco Santori, who represented the WMSCOG at that time. So enjoy, you guys. We were so excited to share this audio with you. This is a really long motion. It was about 2 hours, so we just picked out little clips. Stay tuned all the way until the end. We left some really good tidbits for you on there, okay? Boo, baby.
That's high.
Okay, so give me an example of the type of allegation that Ms. Colón has made, or you allege she has made, that would be similar to, in the Rinaldi case, saying that the judge was probably corrupt.
On yellowbot.com, Ms. Colón said, "Many have had their marriages and family torn apart by this destructive mind control cult."
Mm-hmm.
That is not only a statement of fact that the church uses mind control, but also a statement of fact that there exist families who have been torn apart by this church. This is, the mind control statement is clearly a statement of fact. Mind control is subliminal messaging, change of diet techniques, hypnosis. These are techniques that Mr. Groswald, who happens to be an expert in cults, knows that other cults have used on their members, be it Scientology or the Heaven's Gate cult in California in the 1990s, the Kool-Aid and wet sneakers, those people who are waiting for the spaceship to come down. These people actually used these techniques.
Doesn't this organization believe the world is going to come to an end?
I'm not a member of the church. I don't know that, but I think a lot of religions think the world is going to come to an end. Mainstream Christians certainly do.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Playing in Traffic.
Welcome, everybody. We are back again. We've got our most special guest that we've been so excited to have back. Michele is back with us today.
Michele, we've gotten a lot of great feedback. We have gotten emails, and we have heard from former members that they've really enjoyed hearing your story, and that it's helped already for them to hear. And we've heard from former members that what they thought about you and what the actual story was is so completely different. And so it's like really shocking to people. It's like, it's really shocking, you know, it like takes the ground from underneath you when you realize that everything you thought was not true. So I think a lot of people right now are sort of going through that in hearing your story. So we wanted to have you on again today and go through some more of what happened with your lawsuits.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really want to know like more of the details about it. So today we're going to let Michele, we're going to go through like each thing that she was sued for, and then we're going to kind of get into the details of all that so that people have a really good understanding of like what they actually came after her for and kind of how allegedly ridiculous it is.
We're going to go through the second lawsuit. So the first lawsuit was filed in Virginia, which we talked about before. But we're going to today go through the lawsuit that was filed in New Jersey by the church. And it looks like this was July 11th, 2012 is this stamp that's on here. And we're just going to go one by one through the complaint that they made against you, because a lot of people are like, what the hell did they sue her for? Like you said, you were just, you know, stating your opinion on a lot of things and just telling your side of the story. So a lot of people are surprised that a religious organization can, you know, sue a former member like that and for that amount of money. So they're like, what the hell did they sue her for? So that's what we're going to talk about today, one by one, all the things that they went through. Okay, so this lawsuit was filed July 12th, 2012, or July 11th. And it says the complaint is that the World Mission Society Church of God, plaintiff, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation by and through counsel, and brings the following action against defendant Michele Colón and alleges as follows. So then they introduce, you know, who everybody is, and it says this is an action for damages sustained by plaintiff. So the plaintiff is the WMSCOG, okay, guys? So this is an action for damages. You cause them damages sustained by WMSCOG for the malicious and intentional actions of defendant, who is Michele, who has published false, outrageous, and defamatory statements about the plaintiff. So just, you know, from the beginning, this is what they're suing her for. They say in number 2 that Michele has staged a massive defamatory campaign against them in public and on the internet, and that she conspired to damage their reputation and is actively making others also damage their reputation. And it says that her conduct has caused and continues to cause irreparable damage to them. So that is just sort of the introduction part, and really in a nutshell, you know.
Yeah, also they said that I conspired to damage them and actively solicited others to do the same. I just wanted to point that out.
Right. Yeah. Like you're leading others to, you know, defame them and make false allegations against them.
Right, except they don't ever really say where that happens, but
we'll put a link to this complaint on our episode so that you guys can follow along. But if you just look, so then they go through the different parties, you know, so the church is suing Michele, and they also talk about Tyler, who was part of the original Virginia lawsuit, right? Mm-hmm. And they go about how regarding the co-conspirator, how he is a co-conspirator with you. And then they talk about jurisdiction and venue and where this is going to happen in New Jersey. Okay, so then we get down to statement of facts. So this is number 13. If you guys follow along on the thing, you can see this is page 3. And this is where okay, you guys, this is their statement of facts, which I know it's part of, you know, the lawsuit. But this, to me, seemed like a lot of propaganda, like they were trying to, like, make themselves just seem like this amazing, you know, organization, okay? So let me show you how they express themselves. They say that they're a New Jersey branch of the WMSCOG. The WMSCOG, with its roots in Christianity, was founded in 1964. You guys, Christianity is like thousands of years old, but this church was founded in 1964. The church has over 1.2 million members. I don't know how that could be verified. in about 150 countries around the world with several branches across the U.S. It says they're a nonprofit organization that, beyond sharing its members' faith and beliefs, does good works in its community. Plaintiff has received several accolades for its community service. Most recently, Plaintiff's members in several of the church's branches has been awarded Presidential Volunteer Service Awards. The President's Council on Service and Civil Participation created this award as a way to recognize and thank volunteers who make valuable contributions to their communities and who also, by their demonstrated commitment and example, inspire others to serve their communities. Wow, guys. That just makes me want to join their church right there. Okay. I'm sorry, but they're really trying to make themselves out to be this really great place. Okay. So let's go on to number 16, defendants. So Michele and Newton's defamatory campaign began in or around July 2011 and is continuous and ongoing. So they say that number 17, defendant's attack on plaintiff consists of the widespread publication of false and defamatory statements about plaintiff. The statements are injurious. Am I saying that right? Injurious to plaintiff's name, injurious to plaintiff's name and reputation, and expose plaintiff to public contempt and aversion. Okay, you guys, this is the best part right here. This is the main point, I think, and this is really the reason that they're pissed off, is number 20. The WMSCOG has lost members who have been intimidated by Michele's attacks on them. Members who fear harassment at work and in public, oh my God. Okay, members who fear harassment at work and in public have left the church. Moreover, plaintiff is losing prospective membership because of defendant's conduct. And number 21, plaintiff has lost prospective donative revenue from members, potential members, and other benefactors. So right there, that is the main reason why they are pissed off. Is because they are losing members and they are losing money. Main point, they're losing money.
Right. And they just say it.
I know. Well, they have to, right? They have to.
Right. You have to have some sort of damages, usually in the form of monetary damages to file a complaint.
Right. And for them to say, we're suing you for $6 million in damages because we lost donations, it's their way, you're like, are you admitting that you make $6 million in donations?
Right.
The 4 members who maybe went to the examining site and left at that time.
I mean, people who read the things on the examining site left because they identified with the information, or perhaps then realized that some of their doctrine is not what it is, made out to be. There are many reasons why, people left. And the only reason I know this is because of the emails and text messages and things that I've received from people. But
I do love that. And I think that's really so interesting to learn about why people leave, is that it's so different for everybody. It's not one piece of information that's going to make every single person. That's why the examining site's so great, because it's not just this one, see, this isn't true, so you guys should leave. It's like, for whatever reason, of all of these bundle of reasons, it's just such a crazy thing. There's so many reasons for so many different people.
It's just allowing people to make their own decision. They're having access to information and they can make their own decision. Whether they choose to leave or not, that is not up to Michele. That has nothing to do with Michele. Michele is just allowing free access of information, right? She's a journalist of sorts. She's a journalist of the WMSCOG. So then it goes really detailed. So this is the part where it gets really detailed, and I actually have questions for you. And if there's anything you don't feel comfortable answering, then that's cool too. And we can take out whatever. So the next part goes into public defamatory attacks. So number 22 says, on July 19th, 2011, and September 6th, 2011, the Village of Ridgewood, New Jersey Planning Board held public hearings concerning plaintiff's application to extend its building. The purpose of these town hall style meetings was to determine whether plaintiffs should be granted a variance approval, an exception from design standard to construct building improvements. Oh God. So it sounds like they wanted to make the building bigger.
They wanted to expand on it. From what I understand, they wanted to add another level. They had plans. They were also plans for dormitories to be built, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's been a long time, but those were, I think, 2 of the things that stood out about their plans to me. But yeah.
And so then they had to have a public hearing. And so then did you go to that public hearing?
Yes, I did. I went to 2 of them.
And in a public hearing, is that when, regular citizens are allowed to get up and say whatever they want to say?
Yeah, usually those meetings are attended by members of the community, but they're open to anyone. But yes, there were many, many neighbors who were very upset about their requests and other things. I can get you guys transcripts of those hearings later.
Was the church in a residential neighborhood?
Yes, very much.
A lot of parking, so they probably had parking issues, and they're up all hours of the night, so there's probably noise issues.
Yeah, that was their complaints, especially when they had like the 5 a.m. services. The neighbor that lived, I believe it was directly across the street, said that the lights from the cars would be shining through their window at like 5 a.m. or before 5 a.m. And that was one of the problems. The other problem was parking. Even though the church had a parking lot in the back, some of the residents in the area said that their streets were, full of cars on Saturdays especially, and that was a problem for them.
And so you just showed up to, say what you had witnessed, right?
So I was going to, but their attorney interrupted, or he objected, and I wasn't really allowed to say anything. So that's what makes the next couple paragraphs very interesting.
Okay, can I read them?
Yeah.
Okay, number 23. Colón attended both meetings. At the meetings, she attacked the plaintiff, the WMSCOG, by telling persons at the meeting that WMSCOG damages families and ruined her marriage. Colón stated that the church takes its members' money. Okay, true. Number 24. Newton attended the meeting on September 6, 2011, where he secretly video recorded the second meeting's proceedings and persons present using his iPad tablet computer. Colón actively encouraged other persons to attend the planning board meetings to defame plaintiff and block its efforts at obtaining a variance approval from the Ridgewood Planning Board. Plaintiff has not been granted a variance approval, so they weren't able to get it approved.
Right, but the reason they weren't able to get it approved had nothing to do with me. They in fact withdrew their application, and I have the letter to prove it. So the fact that they blamed me for it is completely insane. I actually could not believe that they put that into their complaint. I was not able to speak on the record. I did speak to a reporter briefly in the hallway, but while I was at the meeting, I didn't speak to anyone else, so I don't know what they're talking about.
So you were never able to publicly get up and speak?
Not at the meeting.
So why was their lawyer able to stop you from speaking?
I don't remember why. I think it was the timing of the meeting only allowed for certain comments, I guess. And I could have spoken at the end where they had like an open forum to speak, but I chose not to.
Did other people get up and speak out against them expanding their building?
Yes, all of the neighbors that were
So did they sue any of those people?
No.
That's so ridiculous. You didn't even get up and speak, and then they...
Right, and they withdrew their own application, so
right.
I had nothing.
And now they're trying to blame you that they were not able to get it expanded, but it was...
Some members of the planning board, I don't remember if it was the architect or the engineer, something in that realm, had issues with some of the plans and the way that they were drawn out and other things. So they had to have repeated meetings because they had to keep coming back with revisions, from what I understand. And that was, I think, the problem, and the problem with the neighbors. I personally had no role in the issues they were having in their plans. I had no role in drafting them, so I don't know how I could be responsible for that. And they withdrew their own application. So
wow. So it absolutely was not your fault that did not happen.
No, ma'am.
The initial complaint was trying to sue Ms. Colón because she's an activist. She attended some planning board hearings where the church was trying to get a variance. And the community was very upset with the church because of all kinds of, they have traffic problems, people are there all hours of the night, the neighbors are complaining, they don't want this variance. And Ms. Colón was in the audience. She attempted to speak at one of the hearings. Their lawyer objected, and she didn't speak at all.
That's my understanding
right.
from what I can glean.
So they're suing her, saying, you tried to block our variance application. And of course, the fact, so she had nothing to do with it. It was all the other neighbors. It was the fact that the plaintiff wasn't answering the planning board's questions. They withdrew their own application before this complaint was filed. So Ms. Colón had nothing to do with it. So we complained in our brief. Right.
That record speaks for itself,
Right.
and it would be hard to believe that the planning board and zoning board would be molded by one person's statement given the response to the application.
Right. So we pointed that out in our first brief. The response we got back was, okay, we're going to amend the complaint, but this time we're going to say not that Ms. Colón was trying to go to the planning board hearings to stop the application. This time we're going to say that while she was at the planning board hearings, she called us a cult and there were other church members there who heard it, and that's defamatory.
My understanding is she never spoke.
Well, she never spoke
At
the hearing.
Correct.
But they're saying that she spoke, in the hallway or on the side, somewhere in the room she spoke, but not formally at the hearing. So they've changed it. They've changed it from she's attacking us at the hearing to she's physically at the hearing, but having a side conversation that turned out to be defamatory. So that's what they're doing now. But that's only a small part. Even if, for the sake of argument, and we're not conceding this, but if for the sake of argument, if those statements were defamatory, that's only a few statements on one day. They're claiming that all the statements on the internet are giving rise to an intentional infliction of emotional distress claim for Mr. Ortiz. That everything she's ever said on the internet, everything that's anonymous, is causing him emotional distress. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, the only statements that have anything to do with Mr. Ortiz, if they have anything to do with Mr. Ortiz at all, are the ones at that variance board hearing, which, frankly, didn't cause any damage to anybody because they have not alleged, and I don't think they can allege, that any of the church members who heard those statements subsequently stopped donating money or stopped contributing to the church. So the corporation has suffered no damage as a result of anything that she said. And they're not alleging that happened. They just make these generalized claims that people have stopped donating, but they're not willing to name who they are. And they don't say that any person who stopped donating...
Well, they would have to. If they're going to continue with the lawsuit.
They will have to, absolutely. And for trade libel, I think they should be doing that now. But there's no allegation that anybody who heard her say anything at a planning board hearing subsequently changed their attachment to the church in any way. So
well, they'll have to prove that.
Okay, here's another one that I wanted to ask you about, and if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, we can move on. Okay, so number 27, it says that Colón's defamatory attacks are continuous and ongoing. As recently as June 27th, 2012, Colón appeared at a child custody trial in New York, during which she repeatedly made outlandish, derogatory, defamatory, and blatantly false statements concerning the World Mission Society Church of God. And I'd like to go through all of these one by one. Are you okay to talk about this? We don't have to say which case it was or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am. Yep.
Okay. So you made statements and you gave testimony. Did you actually give testimony in a court?
Yes. So
Wow.
there was a father in New York who was concerned about his child attending the church. So it was a custody hearing between him and the mother. And he wanted me to testify about my experience in the organization. So I agreed.
Wow.
And what's interesting about this, well, there's more than one thing that's interesting about this. Number one, child custody hearings are, they're kept under seal. They're not public hearings. They're not, like if you requested a recording of the hearing, you would not be allowed to have that. So how they knew exactly what I said and were able to quote me, I'm not really sure because they were not there. The mom who is a member was there, but again, I don't know how she'd be able to quote me necessarily unless she was recording it. But you do have legal protection against defamation suits for things that you say under oath. So as attorneys, they would know that, but they sued me for this anyway. They later removed this part from their complaint when they amended it for that reason. But in my opinion, the reason that they put this in there was to sort of threaten other people and, prevent them from possibly testifying in future hearings, if that were the case. They had no other reason to put that in there because it's not grounds for suing anyone for
right
under oath.
because when you testified, you were under oath. And so that
Right.
is your honest testimony, and that is your honest, what you witnessed. So let's read, what it says here. So number 28, it says her testimony in June 27, 2012 included statements that A, the WMSCOG, the plaintiff, forces mothers to give their children wine. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but okay, let's say that yes, the mothers give their children wine. That's true during the Passover. Every single member of the church has to have Passover wine. Every single member, right? Even if they don't want to, which we've talked about. Lindsay was so grossed out when sometimes the babies couldn't eat the bread. The moms have to eat it. The teachers have to eat it because it is holy material. The same thing with the wine.
Damn, and you're an ex-addict, you're not a drinker, you have to drink the wine. They don't have
you have to.
Non-alcoholic wine.
That is true. Like other churches probably do grape juice, but this is wine, like straight up wine. It's good. Every single member has to drink wine. That's 100% true. That is not false.
Right. And I did say it within the context of it's for this holiday.
For the Passover, for their holy feast. And it's not a lot. The children are... Right. Like my children would be like, oh, they would look forward to it because it was something special. They could have a little bit of wine, Okay. And so then the next one, I'm going to go on to B. Okay. This is 28B. Plaintiff forces mothers to have their children fast. I can only say what I saw and what I knew. I made my son fast. I personally did. This is not a lie. They would say nowadays, according to your faith or something, but it's definitely pressured for, children to fast. Little children,
Yep. I said what I heard when I was there. I was at a team meeting and the leader told another sister that was there that the children are expected to fast for that holiday. And I think the other sister was like a newer member because she had never, done it before. And she's like, well, my son is 18, or son or daughter, I don't remember, 18 months old. I do remember she said that. And the leader said, well, your child needs salvation too.
Yes, 100% that, God's people who participate in this feast, that's the way to keep the feast is through fasting. And it's no food and no water. And it's really sad. And then what happens a lot of times is like for the workers, like the people with the strongest faith, those are the ones that would fast their children, right? So like they would never ask a brand new member to have their children fast. They would never ask that. But like if you're really in it, then your children are fasting. But that means that you're also a worker. So you're out. As the mom, you're out, you're doing things for the church, like you're teaching Bible studies or you're helping new members. So you're not even with your kid. So your kid is in the kids' room crying and sad and like all alone, with the teachers and all the other kids. And, the teachers are trying their best to keep them calm and like keep them comfortable and everything. They're watching movies, they're, relaxing and stuff. But it's really messed up. It's like, if you're going to let your kid fast, you should at least be with it, and like comfort it and everything. And I personally didn't let my son fast until they were old enough to talk to them and tell them why they're doing it. But it's still so messed up. It's very sad. So not a lie. Okay. And then 28C, you stated that the plaintiff keeps children in a room all day and refuses to let them leave. That happens so much, because...
That's not what I said. What I said was when the children are in the church, they are separate from the parents and they are in the kids' room all day. Of course they don't leave. You know what I mean? They're being watched by, whoever's in charge of watching the children. I think that they took a lot of the things I said out of context to make them sound really bad. But
right. But that's true. They don't want the children running around. They don't really want the children to be seen. The children need to be put away so that Bible studies can resume, so that gospel work can go. Children need to be, put away off to the side. And they have teachers, but... And then we get to D. It says that you testified that the church destroyed your marriage by ordering her husband to divorce her. And that is what your testimony was.
According to them, yes.
According to them.
Ever use the word ordered him to?
Right.
I would not know that. I think they heavily influenced him to.
So that was all of the part about the public defamatory acts here. And then it goes on to internet defamatory attacks. So this goes through like Facebook groups that were created and different things that were posted on Facebook and different identities and false identities. I mean, when I was reading through this, I was thinking, isn't it okay to anonymously post on the internet? Like, that's allowed, right?
That's actually one of your First Amendment rights, is to have anonymous free speech.
Right. So I don't understand why, what their problem is here with, and so they go on to explain how you encourage members of Facebook groups to attend that, board meeting, and you got them all together to go to that public hearing to stop their approval of expanding their building, even though they were the ones that took it away anyway, and they didn't end up doing that. And then it goes into a business review websites. And they talk about how you use different aliases on local.com. So it says that local.com owns or manages over 100,000 geocategory domain sites. And so they're claiming that you posted 7 separate defamatory reviews about the plaintiff on the website, and thereby caused the statements to be published on local.com and local.com's affiliated websites. So pretty much all of your reviews, were spread to all those.
They just tried to sue you for giving him a bad Yelp review. That is crazy.
Okay, so it says in these defamatory reviews, Haley Stevens, which is the name that was used, published the false and defamatory statements that plaintiff is a religious cult that destroys families. She further stated that plaintiff will destroy your family and take all of your money. And
that right?
Sounds about right. And it says that, you claimed that they were a religious cult. Well, me and Lindsay have talked about on our podcast, the criteria of how to recognize a cult, right? Through the BITE model, through Dr. Stephen Hassan's BITE model, and through a lot of different ways we understand how to recognize a cult. And so we've already proven, that they have shown cultic tendencies, and that they have been known to destroy families. So I don't think that would be a lie.
Right. No. That is like the best Yelp review for the church. It's like 0 stars.
And they'll take all your money. I mean, that's not a lie. They literally took all my money. And it says another review said,
and like also how would they connect that without, it's like they're admitting like we illegally connected your email to this anonymous person.
They don't really disclose how they figured out that was me. But we can talk about that in a future episode, because the way that they actually did it is interesting, and that we can do an entire episode about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just, it's so crazy to me. It's like they're admitting that they did something sketch to link you to that username. Like,
right.
That would be my first question as a judge. Like, how could you possibly, why do you think that's her doing that anonymously if you didn't do something sketch to me?
Or the next case that we cite says that when the plaintiff posts anonymously, she cannot use she can't use her anonymous posting as a sword to defeat a complaint. If that was the case, everybody would simply be able to post anonymously without putting the dates on.
How do you know the defendant is this individual?
We have a good faith belief, Your Honor, based on the timing, based on her relationship to Mr. Ortiz, based on the text message that she sent to that she sent to the pastor saying, let him go, or all of it, I'm paraphrasing, since Mr. Grosswell wants to sanction me, I'm paraphrasing, let him go or all your secrets will be revealed to the congregation.
And it came from this address.
Your Honor, we have pled. This is particularly why keeping the narrative together makes sense. Things like malice, things like.
Okay, so you guys, we're going to go on to C, which is the Internet Discussion Forums. And this is where it gets interesting. So here, okay, number 52 says, defendant has further attacked plaintiff by publishing false and defamatory statements about plaintiff on various Internet discussion forums. So this would be like comment sections, right? Like when you go to a website and there's comment or forum sections. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. So, number 53, it says the Rick Ross Institute of New Jersey operates the website rickross.com. The website is entitled the Ross Institute Internet Archives for the Study of Destructive Cults, Controversial Groups, and Movements. I recommend everybody go check out the website. This website hosts forums in which internet users may post comments. Under Cult, Sex, and New Religious Movements forum, the website hosts a conversation thread entitled An Sang Hong, which is the name of the church's founder. That's not what they say on their IRS documents, by the way. But anyway, we'll get to that. Number 54, they say that Colón uses this forum to spread harmful, defamatory statements about plaintiffs and to direct readers to other defamatory sources, including videos uploaded to YouTube. Upon information and belief, Colón uses the handle Haley to post comments to the forum. Upon information and belief, is that a scientific way to find out who you are?
No, but it's common legal language from clients that they found out, but they don't necessarily know how, or yeah.
They didn't do it legally, right? Or something like that. All statements herein alleged to have been published to the forum by Haley are alleged to have been published by Colón. So alleged, but not for sure. Haley directed, so they have Haley, quote unquote, but they're saying that it's you. Mm-hmm. Directed forum readers to a YouTube video she claims explains how the WMSCOG destroys families, and to another that discusses alleged connections between the WMSCOG and Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. And here is where it's interesting. So it says, number 58, beyond the outright defamatory comments on the forum, Haley has falsely implied that plaintiff, a tax-exempt nonprofit corporation, has an inappropriate financial relationship with the for-profit corporation Big Shine Worldwide, Inc., the president of which happens also to be the plaintiff's pastor. Coincidence? I think not.
That's basically
oh my God.
But go on.
Okay, sorry. She has also falsely implied that plaintiff lies to the IRS about this alleged connection and its connections to other branches of the church.
Right. So I want to clear up a few things. When I made those videos, I was talking about how the pastor in the three main locations, or the 3 states that are incorporated as corporations for the WMSCOG, the head of the church, or the pastor, is also in charge of Big Shine in that location. And I thought that that was interesting. I think anybody would. And when I said that the plaintiff lies to the IRS, first of all, the plaintiff that's suing me is the New Jersey organization. I was talking about California when I was saying that they, say things that aren't necessarily true. And I was also talking about Illinois, their tax return, and how some of the things that they said didn't match what I was told when I was in the church. So one thing legally, I don't know if you guys are aware, you can't sue on behalf of a third party. So the World Mission Society Church of God in Illinois and California are separate organizations legally, so they can't sue for claims on their behalf. Another thing is that those reviews, like the local.com reviews, and I forget the other websites, some of them, you know how when you look up a business and it'll say like what town they're in? So you know how World Mission Society Church of God has like so many locations? some of the comments were posted for like Deer Park, Texas, for example, or LA, or other states I can't remember off the top of my head. So they also legally should not be suing for statements that are about a different WMSCOG. Those World Mission Society Church of God locations would have to sue me for those statements. So just so people understand how this works from a legal perspective, that they fail to mention in their complaint what statements are actually about New Jersey and which ones are not. But that becomes important later in the case of the legal proceedings going forward.
And that's fascinating, because when I talk to people from New Jersey and I talk to people from California, their statements are like exactly the same. So how are they ever going to know? Like, everybody's story is so similar.
Right.
So, okay, so I want to read number 59. Haley, and every time I say Haley, I'm doing quotes. Nobody can see me because it's a podcast, so sorry about that. Haley suggested an inappropriate financial relationship exists between plaintiff and Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. because the higher ups of the WMSCOG has a clear connection to the higher ups of, and then it has ... Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. And because Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. has locations in other countries in which the church also has a presence, Haley rhetorically asked, why such a strong connection to a Big Shine Worldwide? I don't think that's such a bad thing to ask. Why is there such a strong connection? Why are the higher ups of the World Mission Society Church of God so connected to the higher ups of Big Shine? Why do they have the same locations? Why do they have the same pastors and the leaders? Those are not coincidences, guys.
Right. So it wasn't a rhetorical question. It was a real question. I was really asking, why is there such a strong connection with every, major WMSCOG hub to a Big Shine Worldwide location? Yeah, it wasn't rhetorical at all.
Have you ever received an answer?
No.
No.
They from what I understand, don't like people to know that there is a connection between the two. And I think that the fact that I spoke out about it was a problem for them. But yeah.
This is what I'm curious about. So I've heard a few people mention that in South Korea, they're in the same location. I mean, the buildings, there's a Big Shine in the building of the church.
Oh, that I heard that they're on a different floor, and that the people that work for Big Shine in the building are also WMSCOG members, is what I've heard.
Yeah. So it's interesting that in the US they're trying to keep that separate. But in South Korea, it sounds like they don't really separate the two. So that's interesting, and I'm curious as to why.
Well, we don't know. Maybe in Korea it is hidden, Number 60, I want to read number 60. Haley's statements imply that plaintiff is hiding some financial connection to Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. from the IRS, and this implication is strengthened by her directing readers to YouTube to view her video further discussing alleged connections between the WMSCOG and Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. Okay. Number 61, Haley claimed that the plaintiff lies to the IRS and that she would expose the inconsistencies between what the World Mission Society Church of God says and what they report to the IRS. Haley claimed that plaintiff lies about how their church was founded on their tax-exempt status. And we can also, put links to that on here. And number 62, Haley claimed that because plaintiff and the other branches of the church report to the IRS independently, plaintiff denies that it has any relationship to any other organization, despite having a clear connection to the WMSCOG in California, and despite being controlled by the main location in South Korea. And Haley stated that the different branches of the church report separately to the IRS in an attempt to minimize the appearance of their growth and remain under the IRS radar to falsely imply that plaintiff is lying to and misrepresenting its corporate status to the IRS. Although plaintiff may look to the headquarter church in South Korea for guidance, plaintiff and the other church branches in America are separately organized entities for financial and tax purposes. The American branches are independent corporate entities and report as such to the IRS.
Right. So in one sentence, they're saying that it's a lie that I'm saying that they're incorporated separately and that they're trying to hide something. But then they're saying that they are incorporated separately and report as such to the IRS. That, that's not what I was saying. So they did lie on their tax exempt status application for California about how the church was founded. Anybody who looks at the form can see it. They say that it was a vision that Juchil Kim had in or around 1999. They're not even really sure of the date, which doesn't make any sense. Anyone who attends WMSCOG knows that they are very obsessed with dates, and are constantly going over the dates and how important 1948 is, and how the church was founded, by An San Hong and all this other stuff. So when you read what they say to the IRS and it's a completely different story, I mean, that's like a huge reality check. Like, I couldn't believe that when I saw it. Just because.
Me too. I was shocked when I saw
right?
that.
Right.
And it's so interesting that they're saying that you are lying about that, or Haley is lying about that, but it's like, it's not and like, I just imagine in court where you're like, oh, it's not a lie. Here's the tax return. Here, the tax document. Here's the actual, like, this is not a lie. Here's the evidence of it. And I can't imagine what their response to that is. Like, how do you accuse somebody of going out into the public and saying that, and then for you to just be able to be like, oh no, actually here's the evidence. I don't even know how this even made it to court. I mean,
well, that's another thing to point out, is that in a defamation case, the burden of proof is reversed. So usually it's the defendant has to prove the claims that they defend themselves against the claims by the plaintiff. In defamation cases, it's the opposite. So they're saying that I lied. They have to prove that I lied. I don't have to prove that my statements were true. They have to prove that the statements were actually false.
Can I ask a question? The comments made by Ms. Colón, for example, as to the interaction between World Mission Society and this other entity, Sunshine?
Big Shine. Big Shine.
Big Shine. Okay. Truth is a defense. So the documents that they're going to be asking regarding the financial transactions among and between these entities will have to be produced. And from what I can glean, in terms of, you don't even want to give over the names of the people who left the church, you're going to say, you're not entitled to that. Okay? If you're going to bring this case, all of this is going to be discoverable.
Oh wait, one more thing. When they said that the South Korean organization that I said that they control all of the branches here, that's 100% true. That's how I heard it. They were always talking about how Korea said this and Korea said that. And when I was taught the study for tithes and offerings, the pastor Dong Lee said, we send the money to Korea. He also said, nobody here gets paid. So those were things that I remembered. And when I saw evidence to the contrary, I wanted to let people know that. So.
Yes, that is a big deal. When I saw that they were trying to separate themselves from the South Korea, like, that is ridiculous. No, South Korea is where it's at. They are the ones controlling everything. They have their General Assembly, and then from there they send out all their leaders to all over the world, and everybody checks in with Korea constantly. Everything is reported to Korea. Attendance is reported to Korea. Money is reported to Korea. Tithes, offerings, it's all sent to Korea. So for them to say that they're a totally separate organization, like, what are you talking about? But then they did say, I mean, I thought it was funny how they were like, the American branches are independent corporate entities and report as such to the IRS, only for financial and tax purposes. I mean, they're just saying it's only for financial purposes. But when it comes to everything else, but that doesn't make sense, because if all the money is going to Korea, then that has to be some other kind of financial document that they need to fill out or something.
From what I understand, they deny that they send the money to Korea. That also.
Well, they tell the members that the money goes to Korea.
I know that's
what they tell the members. Yep.
Right.
I would like to just put this out here right now, that we would absolutely invite and love to speak to somebody who represents the church. If we are misguided and we are not putting something together that there's proof of, and they would like to come on here and explain it to everybody who has all these questions about this, we would love to talk to somebody. Like, let's have that conversation. But that's the problem, is like, we don't know a lot of the answers to these questions, and you know, people are gonna ask.
I mean, we can only
love
look
an
at what we were
explanation.
told.
Yeah.
And current members or former members that are listening to the podcast, I think, will probably agree that they were told the same. So
Yeah. So if there's anybody out there who would like to come on here and talk to the people asking the questions, I mean, we would love to have them on. The invitation is open to them, guys. Just send us an email.
All right, so we're going to keep going. So we're on page 12, okay? So it goes through, D is Defendant Newton's website, so then they go on to talk about the examining website. And then they talk about your 5-part series, which we talked about that. And the series, How the WMSCOG Turned My Life Upside Down. And they talk about how in this 5-part series, I want to read number 75. Colón stated that the plaintiff sought to break up her marriage. She stated that the plaintiff blatantly attempted to cannibalize all of her husband's time. Wow, what a word. Okay. So, sorry. She stated that plaintiff blatantly attempted to cannibalize all of her husband's time in order to keep him away from her, and that involvement with the church continued to turn her husband against her. In relating how she gave her husband an ultimatum concerning the marriage, Colón said she told him, "It was the cult or me." Colón claimed plaintiff destroyed her marriage and that church is a destructive organization. And number 78 and 79, Colón stated that an obvious pattern emerged as Colón read story after story about how the WMSCOG had either ruined their marriage or family. With respect to her own marriage, Colón claimed the WMSCOG was driving her husband crazy. Defendant Colón falsely implied that plaintiff is a cult that uses mind control tactics and sleep deprivation to control its members. Colón claimed her husband was called to engage in religious training with plaintiff, but that the goal of this training sounded unrealistic and seemed like a ploy to set members up to fail. And Colón asked rhetorical questions to support her false implications, such as why not set unattainable goals for your members to keep them focused, working hard, and feeling guilty and inadequate when they cannot meet your demands. Colón further stated that the WMSCOG was keeping both Colón and her husband sleep deprived because her husband would stay up late to study religious teachings and would wake up early to pray.
yes.
Yeah.
All of that is true.
All of that is true.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what happened. He told me that they had selected him for a program to teach, I think it was 30 subjects in 30 days. And he said, oh, well, I was chosen for that program. So I thought that was a bit much. I knew how involved the studies were and how long some of them were. So I thought that, learning such a heavy amount of information in that short amount of time was gonna not, number one, take a lot of time to do, and was sort of unrealistic, but not impossible, I guess. But that was just my feelings about, the standard and the demands. That's all.
Right. And from my personal experience, I witnessed the same types of things. Hard training camps and, early wake-ups, early morning prayers. Number 83, Colón published the most disturbing information that Colón had come across, which was that the WMSCOG was said to have been using the same mind control tactics used on U.S. prisoners of war in North Korea. Colón stated that she could not ignore the similarities to what she had experienced in the WMSCOG. Personally, I've heard that a lot.
Right. But if you actually read my 5-part story, I was talking about an article that I had read about the Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's not what I said. They took it completely out of context. My statement was saying that I found that there were a lot of similarities between what this other person was saying about the Jehovah's Witnesses with what I experienced in the WMSCOG. But they reworded it and mixed it up to say that I said it about them. That's not what I said. I said that I found similarities between what the other person was saying about the Jehovah's Witnesses. And the other person was saying that the Jehovah's Witnesses use those tactics. And so I said, it sounds very similar to what I experienced in the World Mission Society Church of God. But yeah.
You know, several members have spoken about the North Korean tactics and how it's similar to what they personally felt inside of the World Mission Society Church of God. So I do not think that what was said, you know, even in the Jehovah Witness, you know, I think that those tactics are commonly used in several cults, not just in this cult, but in many cults.
Right.
And even had you have said that, that's not illegal.
Right.
I can't sue you over it.
No, I mean, I read Robert J. Lifton's book, and he talks about those tactics. And do I think that I experienced those tactics in the WMSCOG? Yes.
Okay, so then they go on in the complaint to talk about the presidential award. We've talked about that a lot, and you guys can go ahead and read those parts. And then, unless anybody wants to say anything about that part.
I mean, the only thing I would say is that in that article, I was just talking about how, from what I understood, the rules of the presidential award to be, they didn't necessarily follow them. And interestingly enough, one of the rules of that award is that it cannot be awarded to non-U.S. citizens. And they did give an award to Zangil-ja, who they believe is the mother god, and to Juchul Kim, who is the general pastor, none of which are citizens of the United States. But they didn't sue me for saying that, and that was actually true. And I think that would have been more damaging to them, but it was true. They sued me over some technicality that they made up. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
But you're leaving out the meat of the story, which is that they gave the presidential award to non-U.S. citizens.
Right. They did not follow the rules. That is true. Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's so fascinating that they include those things in there, because if you look just like a layer deeper, they're just admitting like the actual lie that they are telling people. It's so fascinating.
Well, they have to come up with something to write.
Yeah.
Okay, so it goes on to YouTube videos, and it talks about YouTube videos that you created and cartoons that you created. And I wanted to read. These are the defamatory statements that they said that you made. This is in number 102 that you made in these YouTube videos. The WMSCOG uses mind control tactics on its members in order to tear them apart from their families. The WMSCOG uses fear and guilt as their main tactics. Yes. The WMSCOG uses fear to prevent its members from going on vacation. Yes. The WMSCOG uses sleep deprivation as a means to make their members more vulnerable to the indoctrination process. And every waking moment must be focused on controlling the members' minds. The statements in the Destroys Family video are false and defamatory. So they're talking about a specific video that you made, and then they talk about another video that you made about public financial information. Did you guys want to say anything about that part?
Just that it's all true. Everybody that we
Right.
talk to has experience of that. And so for them to say that and then not be able to provide any proof to the contrary is just crazy. It's just so crazy that they're like, these are the tactics that we use, but she's lying about them. And it's like they're outing themselves. It's so weird. It's just.
Are these YouTube videos still available?
Yeah, I'll send you guys the links.
Yay, okay. So this one is a YouTube video that they were upset about, destroys families. And then they talk about another YouTube video in number 105. In the financial info video, Colón falsely implies that the WMSCOG is disguising a financial connection to Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. from the IRS. Colón states that the plaintiff does not provide any form of financial disclosure to its members and asks, so where does the money go? Colón states that the plaintiff denies to the IRS that the organization has a direct business relationship through ownership of another entity. This is where it gets interesting, folks. She claims, as she states, that the plaintiff's pastor and registered agent, Dong El Lee, owns Big Shine Worldwide, Inc., and that the pastor of another branch of the church, Jae-hoon Lee, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Jae-hoon Lee is a secretary of Big Shine Worldwide, Inc. This, Colón claims, is a clear business relationship. Colón states, well, one can assume that Jae-Hoon Lee, as secretary at Big Shine Worldwide, is getting a paycheck from Ridgewood, New Jersey, WMSCOG pastor and owner of Big Shine Worldwide, Dong-Il Lee.
Right, which is how payroll
This
works in a company. But go on.
right. So there's a video, and so can we also put this video? I know that I've watched this video, but it'll be interesting to watch again. And these are all in the form of cartoons, which I just love. It's so amazing. Okay, so what do you guys think about that? I mean, none of what they're saying, I mean, yeah, we want to know the answers. Why are all of these things, they're just saying these statements, number 112, these statements are reasonably read to impart those false inferences. The statements affirmatively show that Colón adopts the inferences the statements impart. The false inferences are defamatory. In the financial info video, Colón also falsely implies that the plaintiff lies to the IRS about the source of its funds. Colón claims in the video that she is reading an IRS filing from one of the church's branches in the video and notes that the form reports receipt of a little over $26,000 from a, quote, parental church. She implies that this is untruthful and suspect because the form does not also report a corporate subsidiary relationship to its parent church headquartered in South Korea. Plaintiff is not a corporate subsidiary of the parent church. Colón also falsely implies that the church lies to the IRS about where the money it receives is going.
Right.
Right.
They're claiming they got $26,000 from a parental church, and this is the California branch that I was talking about. It wasn't even about New Jersey. Who's the parental church then? If they just said a few paragraphs ago that they are incorporated separately and that they are not connected to the South Korean branch.
And then they tell the members directly, not a lie. You guys have all, and we've met so many people that have said this, that the money that you are giving to the church is going to Mother in South Korea. So it is financially connected, and or they're lying to all of their members, which is not cool. So which one is it?
Actually, I just remembered I was talking about the Illinois branch in this paragraph, not California. But still, the point is I wasn't talking about New Jersey.
And if anybody wants to watch this YouTube video, you can see every single thing that they're talking about in this thing.
And is this the video, Michelle, where it's like, if you don't believe me, go to this website, put this information in, and pull this up for yourself? Like, this is a document that you can go get yourself. I'm not just like, see, look real quick at this document. It's like there's instructions on how to go find this document yourself, which I think is really helpful because it's like, if you don't believe this one YouTube video, that's fine. Go do the research on your own. And I love that aspect of that video.
Yeah, even on the examining site where we have the public records of their applications for tax exempt status, we give the website and where you can request your own copy if there's a member out there that believes that the forms are somehow edited or not authentic or real copies. So
I think that's a powerful punch to it, and that represents this whole thing is like, I'm not making this up, guys. Like, this is real. These are real tax documents. I'm just question what the hell is going on here.
Right, and they don't give financial disclosures to their members. That's a fact. I never received one.
They never do. And I've seen other churches, they'll put it in their bulletin. This is what we paid for this. This is what we paid for this. This is how much we got. This is how much we spent. This is how much we have left. They usually have a public treasurer or something like that, where it's sort of open information because it's your money that you're giving.
Right. There is no financial transparency.
No.
I'd be curious if they've updated that policy. So if anyone has recently left or is currently in it and wants to correct us on that, I'd be curious to know and see what that would look like at this point. Maybe they were like, oh, we didn't know our members wanted that. I
guarantee they will never do that. They never could because they could never show how much they make.
I know, but I'm just saying, to play devil's advocate, we invite the information if it's out there. If they've righted their wrongs, please let us know so that we'd be curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah, but I did want to point out paragraph 119 where it says, in the financial info video, Colón notes that the branch claimed $300,000 in missionary expenses but states that plaintiff's members pay their own expenses when they do missionary work, falsely implying that plaintiff lied to the IRS about how this money was actually spent. So all I was saying was that they claimed $300,000 in missionary expenses, but from my experience, the members paid for everything. So my question was, what were those $300,000 spent on? If the members pay for their own plane tickets to Korea, they pay for their own like hotels if they go to other states to preach for short-term preaching. So I don't know what the $300,000 in missionary expenses actually amount to or what it refers to. It was an honest question.
Right. Everybody in the church would say, I mean, from my experience of hearing everybody's stories, I've never heard of one thing that they've said the church does cover financially. I mean, it sounds like the food is paid for by like, hey, we're buying food this week. Who wants to donate? Like, even if it's small amounts, they pay rent if they live like at the church or in a church house, in a house church.
Yeah.
I can't think of one thing I've heard of that is like the magazines are paid for. You guys the members pay for them.
Especially the preaching trips. Like if you go on a preaching trip, everybody pays a certain amount of money, and the members support that. The members are the ones that pay the money to go.
Yeah, I would be curious if anyone can think of anything that they've gotten for free or like given to them. That would be interesting to know what that is.
Or maybe a Whopper meal. In F, they talk about ridgewoodpatch.com. If you guys want to talk about this, upon information and belief, Colón uses the internet handle Tommy, quote unquote, to post defamatory comments about plaintiff on the website ridgewoodpatch.com. All conduct herein alleged to have been performed by Tommy is alleged to have been performed by Colón. So they're saying again that you were posting and lying about, their IRS application for tax exempt status, and this causes them so much harm, and it's malicious and outrageous and oppressive and all that. Okay. And then they go through all the different actions. So these are all the different, right. It's pretty much all the claims, just put one by one, saying that. There was one part on there that I did want to read. It was number 151. As a nonprofit organization, plaintiff depends on donations of its members and other benefactors to pursue its good works in the community and for its general survival. So they're literally saying that they need their donations. And if they don't have those donations and that money, they cannot survive, So I think that that's probably common legal speak, but it's just so dramatic and it's so true, and that's why they're like, don't mess with my money. Okay, guys, this is the good part here. We're at the end. So this is where they want justice. They want justice for what Michele has done for them. So this is what they're asking to make them whole, okay? This is their prayer for relief. This is what they call it in legal terms, okay? So A, pretty much they want her to remove every single thing that she has ever posted. It says they want her to immediately remove all of her false and defamatory reviews, posts, statements, and videos from the internet, including but not limited to those specifically alleged herein, and refrain from committing further acts of the nature alleged herein. So they want you to take everything off and never do it again.
Yep.
And B, an order awarding compensatory damages in the amount of $5 million. And then C, an order awarding exemplary and punitive damages in the amount of $350,000. And an order awarding costs of this suit, including attorney's fees and all other relief as the court deems just and proper, and trial by jury is demanded. The end, and respectfully submitted, World Mission Society Church of God, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation.
Yeah.
There it is, folks. You got to pay them $5 million and more for all of those posts.
And never say anything about them online, and also go back and take it all down.
Shut your mouth and go sit in the corner. That's what they want. And give them your money.
Yeah, so it's funny how they wanted a preliminary injunction would basically mean that the court would tell me that before this case is even decided, that I need to take everything down and stop speaking about them before they actually proved that anything I said was even defamatory in the first place. So I thought that was pretty ridiculous, but I understand why they worded things the way that they did. I think that most people, when reading something like this, you know, you're served with a complaint, right? By either a process server, and you'll receive like a copy of it in the mail, typically, depending on, you know, I think that most people reading this would be afraid and would immediately go into panic mode. Of course, this was the second complaint I received with similar language, but yeah, this was obviously...
It's intimidating. It's big words. It's intimidating. Sometimes we don't really understand what we're reading, but we can Google things and we can research things and we can look things up and we can ask questions, you know, and like you had defended yourself, which I think is so amazing. You spent a little bit of time where you had to defend yourself in court, and that must have been a challenge, but you did it.
Yeah, that was much later on, and that was in the lawsuits I ultimately filed against them. But yeah, I mean, receiving the complaints in the first place and seeing the amount that they sued over, because in Virginia, I believe it was 12 million. I mean, it's ridiculous. First of all, I don't have even 1 million. So, and they know that. So to sue for such a ridiculous amount is crazy. But to me, it was obvious that it was just an intimidation tactic. Actually, there's a name for this. It's called the SLAP suit, Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. They're not the first group to do something like this. I had actually looked up other cases at that time. Other cults and other strange religions have done similar to their online critics. But yeah, so it was an obvious attempt to get me to take the website down and to stop speaking about them when their attempts to get me to sign their non-disclosure agreement failed, and I continued speaking out online even after Mark left. I think this was sort of their only other option at the time, it seemed like.
I did notice that the original lawsuit with your co-creator was more aggressive when it came, like you said, it was for more money. Mm-hmm. I think it was for 10 million plus another 5 million. So it was more than $15 million that they originally sued for in Virginia. Mm-hmm. And I thought that it was interesting that at first they were just really aggressive, you know, and still, you know, they were still aggressive again, but a little bit less.
I think it's because the Virginia lawsuit was against two people. So if you figure, you know, they would split that in half. And because the New Jersey lawsuit was just against me, that's perhaps why they cut the amount down. Still the same aggressiveness, I feel like. Yeah. Way too aggressive.
Once you go over 1 million, you're like, that's ridiculous.
And when it came to this specific lawsuit, can you just remind everybody listening, what was the outcome of this specific lawsuit and this complaint that we went over today?
So this specific lawsuit was dismissed in February of 2015. We could do an entire episode just on the opinion and the order that the judge wrote about the entire case, and I think it actually would be a good idea because it sums up everything that happened throughout the litigation. But yes, ultimately, we filed a motion for summary judgment, and we won, so their case against me was dismissed.
That's a good idea. So stay tuned because we'll have a follow-up episode of like how the judge reacted to this. Mm-hmm. And kind of how that played out, because that's fascinating. That's what I keep imagining is like the look on the judge's face, like kind of reading through this, like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that.
Is a dismissal the same as a win, would you say?
Yes. So basically their case against me was dismissed, so they lost, and I won. I guess you would look at it that way. Yeah.
It's not like they pulled their complaint back. It's like the judge said, no, this is dismissed. I don't agree.
What you're talking about is a voluntary dismissal, which they did in Virginia. No, their case was dismissed by the court.
Thank you for letting us go through this. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Well, first, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. I felt that I'd been hearing sort of other former members' impressions of what the lawsuit was about and what the church was actually suing for, and I thought it was important to put the complaint out there. And I know it's hard to read, so I thought the discussion perhaps would be better, just so that the members and the former members understand, and then they can go look at it themselves if they want to verify everything we said. To see exactly what the church was claiming was a lie. Yeah.
Like everything in it, there's not like one thing in there that I'm like, well, I could see why they would. And knowing the details about the custody hearing is infuriating, that they even had the audacity to add that in there, of like a closed hearing that they were not supposed to have any transcripts from. The fact that they know that and then went into the legal system and tried to use that against you. Ballsy. It's crazy.
It was very, very upsetting, and they ended up taking that part out when they amended their complaint later on. But it doesn't matter. The damage is sort of done because it's in there already, and it's in a public document.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that former members reading that would be afraid to testify.
Yeah.
So I think that was the reason why they put it in.
Well, thank you so much. This has really cleared up a lot for me too. I mean, I've read through it, but like hearing the description is like really helpful. And everybody stay tuned. We have so much more coming. I think we'll do another one on how the process of this, like hitting the court and how it was dismissed, would be a good one. And then we're going to talk to Raymond soon. We don't know when, but we're going to have Raymond on, which is going to be so fun. Raymond and Michelle are going to do a whole episode.
It's been really eye-opening, and I'm still always shocked at the end of every time that we record and every time we talk, especially to Michelle. Just all of these things are just really surprising, when you're told something different and then you see all these things happening in court. It's just very surprising. So I'm really thankful that we were able to go through these one by one. And then we're going to post all this in the show notes so you guys can read all these 25 pages yourself and see some of these YouTube videos that were put up there and the amazing cartoons. So
Whoa.
Sorry, that was my dog. Do you want to say that again? I'll go.
No, I love it. I love it.
And it is something that is fabricated by Jewish organizations for their own financial gain, or to put certain states and other religions in a negative perspective. Based upon what you're saying, would these Jewish organizations that they are saying are, would Jewish organizations have the right to sue these particular entities indicating that the Holocaust never existed for defamation?
There are millions of Jews worldwide. There are, as Mr. Grosswald said, only so many members of this specific church, and that's what we're sitting on. So the answer is no. I don't think the Anti-Defamation League, for example, could sue for damages to all Jews on the planet. It's too generalized. This is not a generalized statement that she made. Everything that we've alleged shows that she targeted this one church, these members. This is what we're suing on.
But the statements are not even of and concerning the plaintiff. I showed you the statements. See, they're talking about other branches of the church, or statements that refer to the church as a whole and not New Jersey.
For example, I saw that the paragraph 4142 involves Deer Park, Texas. Paragraph 44.
Those are paragraph numbers from the original complaint.
I'm sorry.
Right. That's fine, but it's the same statements are carried over into the new complaint.
But there's Santa Fe, California, Reseda, California, Bloomingdale, Illinois, Deer Park, Texas. I mean, it goes on and on. Just obviously congregations that are not Ridgewood.
The reason that we think, that Mr. Grosswald thinks those are not about Ridgewood, are based on, not on the allegations in the complaint, but allegations in his unauthenticated research. We don't know whether that was changed since it was first made, republished, modified. This is all things that we can determine.
That's why when I asked for the 5-day demand, you should have turned it over and I could have seen what it originally said. You have it, right? You have it in your possession.
The allegations in the complaint are
over.
to be taken as true, and are to be taken as true. That's the point of a motion to dismiss. If Mr. Grosswald wants to make a motion based on discovery, he can do so at summary judgment whenever he likes.